Alex, this morning seems to be all about the CEOs bidding adieu.
Absolutely. In fact, if you are sitting in the corner office, then there's one set of individuals that you need to keep very, very happy, and that is the shareholders. And particularly when there are promoters and not public shareholders, it becomes that much more imperative because you can be gone in a flash. That seems to be the case, at least in one of the entities that we're talking about. I'm sure that my colleague Tushar will confirm. We're talking about Wipro here. On the other end of the spectrum, the founder himself is giving way, Bandhan Bank. We'll talk about why that could potentially be the case and what the implications are for a stock that is already down about 19% in 2023. That's Bandhan. Rather 2024, that's Bandhan Bank, which is down 19%. Hersh is going to talk about that. But let's start with Wipro. It's not been an easy ride for the Frenchman. He's been sitting in France and he's been overseeing a company that has been losing out, particularly on the bottom line. Is that the most important reason why he's exiting?
So, thank you, Alex. So, first of all, let's remember why Theirry Delaporte was brought in. Excuse me. He was brought in for a turnaround. So last year we wrote about it that Wipro's turnaround story may just go for an about turn when the pain points of discretionary spending came in and the changes that Delaporte was bringing were not working out. So essentially that turnaround has now happened. He is now leaving the company. So essentially...
Not in the business perspective.
Not in the business perspective.
Is with him leaving.
With him himself.
Right.
So he was brought in for a turnaround, but he's now done an about turn and he's leaving the company. So what he did, let's take a brief look at it. He made the biggest acquisition in Wipro's history with Capco, which is a consulting, UK-based consult company. That's for $1.45 billion. Secondly, he brought in about 2 restructurings, mega restructurings in 3 years. That led to a senior level exodus at the company. 25 senior vice president level exits happened in 3 years. About 200 general managers left the company in the 3 years because of those restructurings. Delaporte set up a growth office targeting long-term deals, large deals. That didn't pan out. Not a single large deal was struck during his tenure.
What's the definition of a large deal?
So essentially something which is more than $1 billion.
Okay.
So something that TCS and Infosys do quite regularly. So if you want to play in that park, you want to crack the $1 billion deals. Wipro had a very strong 2021. That was because of the pandemic led digital transformation that happened, but that didn't percolate later because again the discretionary deals went away. So what are the reasons? First of all, underperformed the peers. Revenue decline happened compared to the peers. Discretionary went away, but it hit Wipro even worse because remember consulting deals are mostly discretionary. So once that goes away, completely the consulting piece falls. So essentially his dream or Wipro's dream of building an Accenture in India, which no Indian IT company has been able to do that, didn't work out. So when you're looking at essentially a revenue decline in FY24, of course you're going to get
Geographically, where are their biggest clients?
So the biggest clients are still based in the US and Europe, but the new clients are not coming in. So essentially the big ones, the big banks, the BFSI clients go to say an Infosys or TCS, the smaller ones go to say the little more mid-tier LTI minded. So the space what Wipro wants to acquire is somewhere in the middle, but it's just lost.
So the criticism of the disconnect between the Indian workforce as well as the clients in the US, with him sitting in France, is relevant?
Exactly. So the point is, you either sit at one place. Right. So for example, Srinivas Pallia, he's heading the BFSI practice for Wipro in America.
In the US,
So he's in New Jersey. Most CEOs will either sit in India or will sit in the US. You either are close to your clients or you are close to your employees. So you have to do either of them. You can't sit in Paris because there will certainly be a disconnect between either your employees or with your
clients. So then the
clients.
bottom line then, you know, I think we've fairly established what the issues were. Is there going to be a turnaround finally with Delaporte heading for the exit?
So difficult to say because discretionary deals are not coming back in a hurry. But there is one strong benefit right now for Wipro is that both the CEO, that's Srinivas Pallia, as well as the CFO, Aparna Iyer, who stepped in after Jatin Dalal left last year, again because of these restructurings, both are internal candidates. So that gives the confidence to the company and its employees that, okay, we have internal talent now in charge. So remember, Srinivas Pallia is the first internal CEO since 2011. Also, he's the 8th CEO since 2002.
Wow, okay, so that's significant.
So 8 CEOs in 20 years, is it's a revolving door, so to say. Right?
Yeah. So fair point. We'll have to see what the implications are for the stock. It has underperformed its peers in a big way. Let's see if there's a bit of a positive reaction on the back of the announcement that an internal candidate is going to take over. But moving from Wipro to Bandhan Bank, because this really is something that came as a bit of a surprise with the board approving his extension, Mr. Ghosh.
Yes.
But then Ghosh coming and saying, look, I am heading for the exit.
Well, yes, Alex, and that's where the overhang is. Mr. Ghosh is the founder CEO at Bandhan Bank. He's always driven strategy all these years, 25 odd years, almost 25 years is where he's driven strategy. And therefore, would this exit change the strategy? Not really sure, but would it pose concerns for investors? Most definitely, because any change in leadership at any bank will pose an overhang of sorts for any banking entity. So that's the first point that we'd like to make. The second point here is it's his retirement of sorts is very close to the last day of office for him, which is 9th of July. So there's very little time basically for Bandhan Bank to appoint someone and for someone to settle in to the bank. Of course, the key question is whether the RBI has or has not approved his
pending.
Reappointment. That is pending, and basis the conference call which is on right now, we've gotten to know that there is no communication from the RBI. So that's the other piece that obviously needs to still get solved for. We're not sure whether the RBI has driven this or whether it's him personally who has driven this. But likely the commentary currently seems to be he's personally driven it. It's for personal reasons, and why such a quick exit of sorts? Why wasn't this pre-planned? What they are seeming to suggest, again on the call, we're listening to it as we speak, is he's suggesting the bank has come to a point where the COVID issues are behind them, even though asset quality issues continue to mar the bank. COVID issues are behind them and growth seems to be coming back. So he is choosing to step down in what he believes to be the best time.
But the numbers don't seem to suggest that that is the case. You look,
yes.
At the end of the day, management or somebody that is making way, that is heading for the exit, is going to make it sound like everything is fine because they want to keep shareholders, they want to ensure that they're not freaked out, for want of a better word.
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure that you're likely going to see a reaction on the other side of the spectrum with a couple of brokerages already coming and double downgrading the stock.
Correct.
The question mark is this asset quality issue. Is somebody that is going to fill the role of a Ghosh that had as much power to wield mechanisms within the bank?
Correct.
Is that new CEO or head of that organization going to be able to move the needle?
At best questionable, Alex, and hypothesis isn't good enough at this point. What Ghosh also seems to be, what Mr. Ghosh also seems to be suggesting is he's not going anywhere per se. He's just going to step up into a more leadership or a strategic related role at the holding company level, Bandhan Financial Services, which of course does insurance now, mutual fund now. So he's probably going to spearhead that angle of the financial services arm. And hence likely he will continue to wield some amount of influence, if not too much. But markets largely will lose confidence to a certain extent because there is a leadership void very clearly, Alex.
So we'll have to wait for an announcement as to who is going to take charge and what the transition period is going to be. But expect there to be a little bit of turbulence for Bandhan Bank in trade today. Remember, it's a stock that is down as much as 19% in 2024 alone.